Good morning, everyone. We prepared a little presentation for all of you to have an insight into our one-to-one concerts format. Right, Franziska? You will be sharing your screen.
Yes, I can share the screen, and I'd like to thank Jan Ford for the wonderful insights into the project. And we talked a lot about accessibility in digital formats, and I think this project we are going to present now is perfectly fitting in that idea of how to make concerts accessible in that way, not in digital, but in a pure analog way. So Christian and me, we are two of three initiators and artistic directors of one-to-one concerts. So who's missing? Stephanie in Stuttgart. She's our flutist. I am a scenographer, and Christian, you are
cultural mediator. Yes.
So we are a German-based team from Stuttgart and Berlin, but all over the world active. So what is a one-to-one concert? It is as simple as it looks. It's a concert between one listener and one musician for 10 minutes. So really the most simple format you could imagine for a concert. And we started this project pre-pandemic, can I say it like that? So it's invented in 2019. It's really important because it's not a pandemic format, even if it looks like it would be. So it was invented on our summer festival in Volkenroda, which is really in the middle of nowhere, 1 hour distance to any other city, at the Cloister, Volkenroda. And we do have this wonderful festival there, and it was one of many other concerts we had under the topic simplicity. So that's why we invented the one-to-one, because it's the most simple format we could imagine, not only musically, also spatial, because we are a team of architects, scenographers, musicians. So that comes out of an interdisciplinary approach to the topic. So, but to keep it short, in 2020, you all know these pictures where this coronavirus kept the world breathless, I would say. And what we did, like with this format, saying, okay, if nothing else happens, like all the concerts were cancelled, all musicians staying at home, really problems with like money. And what we did is like taking the one-to-one format and putting it into a movement, and like making it possible to like everybody can play one-to-one concerts. So what it needed to do that is like good descriptions, a lot of briefings and motivational calls to our cooperation partners, which were at that time orchestras, who were luckily in Germany at least still paid, but had enough time to play in solidarity for their freelance musicians who were not paid. So it's kind of this eye level, how to call that, Christian, dialogue also between paid and unpaid musicians. And as you can see, that was our answer to Corona, to spread the one-to-one concerts all over the world as a positive virus, a positive energy. Australia started to play. We all had like friends and musicians in all those countries, in Japan. And like some weeks ago, we started in Washington with the Washington National Opera, and Brooklyn, the Brooklyn Academy of Music, just to name a few. But it's Semperoper Dresden, it's Stuttgart, Staatsoper, many orchestras and freelance as well. So, in fact, we do have those cooperation with renowned orchestras, over 8,000 concerts worldwide. And in total, like if you take all the participants all together, like musicians, the hosts, the organizers, it's over 2,500 participants taking part in that movement somehow. And the aim of this format is to raise money, and at least in Germany, we collected 180,000 euro. It's really difficult to count because we do have different funding possibilities. It's in Germany, it's a Deutsche Nothilfefonds, der Orchesterstiftung, but in other countries could be other funds for freelance musicians. So, yeah, that's where we are at the moment. And Christian, I can't see you, but I'm sure you are there.
I am, Franziska. I am. Yes, I will
you will
take
talk
over.
about the musical Tête-à-Tête at eye level.
Exactly.
So what
well, exactly. Well, a one-to-one concert is not only a concert, but it is embedded in kind of a performance, and it actually doesn't start with the music right away, but it starts with 1 minute of mutual gaze. So this is what the listener will see: this viola player looking at you for about a minute, and the viola player will look at her listener and at her listener for about a minute. And so what happens after this 1 minute mutual gaze is the musician will find a musical answer, will find a mirror to this situation, which will never repeat again. So it's a very unique encounter, a blind date between two people, and the answer is a musical one. So this cellist will play a piece that will respect and mirror this very special encounter between two people, which is completely intimate. There is no one else around. There is no one else to listen to that music, to see what these two people experience in this very particular experience. This can be anywhere, but it will always be intimate, even on a concert stage, or also in a big airport, which is completely empty. This is Stuttgart Airport, for example, which was closed during the pandemic about a year ago. And so we played concerts there. So there's no one else around in this big, wide open space. And this makes this blind date a very particular one, let's put it that way. There is not only the listener and the musician, but we created a third player, let's call it like that, which is the host. The host is indeed a door opener and an emotional companion. So with every single listener will be welcomed by the host. The host not only takes care of the musician and of the concert venue, but most of all of every listener. So there is a personal greeting, a personal welcome. And this host represents the space. So here it can be, this is a Berlin bar, which you will see a barkeeper, or also a Dominican monk will welcome the listener to the church and explain a small set of rules that come with the concert. So we'll remind the listener of the silence. So there is no talking, there is no applause. There is this mutual gaze. And most of all, what the host does is try to prepare the listener in a way that every listener can be without preconceptions, without bias, and will take away all kinds of nervousness and thoughts that might arise for the listener. The door will be opened, and then this hopefully very relaxed, very focused listener enters the stage. It's not the musician entering the stage, but it's upside down. The listener is entering the stage. Exactly. The door is closed, and then this intimate moment of mutual gaze and music will arise. Exactly. So Franziska, this is probably I will.
Should I take over? So maybe yes, just please. One last chapter about the spaces, which is my part in the project, and this idea of empower spaces as cultural spaces throughout the city or throughout the rural. And what we did is just finding a very simple method to do a framing for the concert stages, because any space could be a concert space. And what is important is that the host, in that case, it's the host who is the scenographer or the designer, how you call it, and he prepares the stage. It's 2 chairs, basically, 2 meters or even more distance. And then we have this framing around, but this is really at every space, it's a different one. And that leads to the identification of the host with the space, and also is really important for the atmosphere in the concert, the energy, and to open up a resonating space. It's important to have this framing, but it could be really, really different. And I'm just showing some slides how different hosts designed their spaces. and how lovely and beautiful all those pictures went around the world. And that makes it also as a community building instrument. It's really important to have those via pictures, photos, or videos, to have this as a common topic between every one-to-one concert. So at least here in a fitness studio, for example, or this is a hotel, but it's a swimming pool. So really crazy spaces where you never go. Here it's in Dresden, it's a material frame. It's made out of light, which is fantastic. But it's also okay to do this with typical Italian citronen, the citrus fruits and oranges, as Christian did it in Rome, where he organized the concerts, for example, in Villa Massimo and other places. Or here, one picture from our festival, we played in a goat. What is
this is not the one I have to clear.
Yes, you went out of the frame here.
Yes, you did. And there is a secret listener. And sometimes we do have secret listeners, for example, here in Tokyo, Japan, where the koi fishes were. So even outdoor, it really works well. And I finished the presentation here with Sally Walker, who's our organization in Australia, playing at the beach, which is a wonderful spot. And this is just far beyond anything we could imagine. One of our violinists played on his surf, you know what I mean, in the Bretagne, in his holidays in France. This must be a really crazy moment, one-to-one at the ocean.
But they had to anchor themselves somehow.
Yes. So
this must have been in like July or August. Otherwise,
yes. And so we want to see more about the project. Just visit the website or write us an email, and just want to finish the little presentation, and we come back maybe to some slides during the question round to see this wonderful community.
All right, I will give you a few questions first, and then we will show you how we did it here. This must have been an emotionally overwhelming event. How do people react? Is there a usual reaction, or as different as possible?
As it is not a normal concert, let's put it like that, where you have the musicians on the stage and the audience down there somewhere, where there is a sort of a social connection, but disconnection as well. In this intimate situation, of course, a lot of different reactions arise and emotions will arise. So a lot of people will be crying because something happens that never actually happens. You look into a complete stranger's eyes for about a minute, and then you get this musical answer, which is so personal. It's not this, okay, I've planned this Bach, Mozart, Beethoven, and I'm just going to play this to everyone. It is so personal and so intimate that, of course, a lot of people, as I said, will be crying, will be laughing, will be completely speechless after this concert. It is very short. It is 10 to 15 minutes only, but it's very intense. And even hours after the concert, emotions will arise that you will not have thought of. And we decided for silence to rule for everything that is not music, because what we usually do in a concert is we have a chit chat afterwards. We have a small talk. We say, okay, the violin was nice and this and so on and so forth. But we thought as we wanted our concert format to be completely upside down, we also wanted to, we didn't want these emotions to go into chit chat. So here you see the listener, this is taken out of a little movie. People will mostly, put their hands on their hearts as a sign of gratitude. And this is lovely. And actually, as we said, there is no chit chat after the concert, but there is the possibility to resonate, to give a resonance in a written form. So every listener will receive a piece of paper where the musician will write down his or her name, the instrument, and the pieces that were played. And there is also the appeal to make a donation, to leave a donation to a social solidarity fund. And also on the right-hand paper that you see, it says what you were not able to convey with your eyes, during your personal one-to-one concert. So every listener can leave a little written note as kind of a feedback to the musician. And we call them love letters. It's very often very, very touching, very moving what people write in these letters. And there are not only letters. You will see little drawings. You will see little figures. There are poems that people write, and so it's very interesting how the concerts resonate on an individual base with the listener. Yeah,
it's an exchange on multiple levels, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
How about diversity? Show us some examples of instruments you normally would not expect at the concert. What did you?
Well, Franziska, it is always a big surprise, right? But as a lot of classical musicians from orchestras are playing, very often you will, of course, encounter the violin or the cello or the flute. The flute. the flute, or the viola. There is something very special about the viola in our concert when we do not know. The first musicians are very often the viola players. It's quite interesting. But as we want to have the surprise, we're trying to keep the variety of musicians wide. And so, Franziska, perhaps you can show a range of unusual instruments that you might encounter during one of our concerts. Mm-hmm. This is a Senegalese kora. That was one of the concerts in Rome. A Senegalese storyteller. So that comes very unexpected, especially in an Anglican church in Rome, as you can see. On the right-hand side, do you recall the name of the instrument, Franziska? It was in Australia, right?
It was in Australia. And I'm sorry, I can't remember the name. Maybe somebody else can write it in the chat.
Never seen that before.
Sometimes it's really, this surprising moment is really important because you don't have any expectation when you come to the concert, and it's good. So we can really put it to a limit with that.
Absolutely. So this is a Chinese erhu that was played only last week or 2 weeks ago at Brooklyn Navy Yard in New York.
We will have to hurry a little bit. Would you tell us what are you planning now? What's next? It has evolved so rapidly and so nicely. What else could you add to it?
Yes, this is a perfect, well, as we said, other cities, other countries are asking us and are joining the community. So this is what we're doing on a constant daily routine. But we did some first tryouts with other disciplines, for example, dance or literature. Here in Frankfurt, for example, this already happened, but we're still trying to work, for example, with the circus artists. You definitely could have a good situation. All the artists who are willing to improvise and to have this powerful empathy in their discipline are great for one-to-one situation. It's a one-to-one performance then, or a one-to-one festival, for example. Or here, we're trying something out with like one-to-one in Villa Massimo, Christian, right?
Exactly. With writers. Writers. Oh, exactly.
Like actors. I know some actors who would enjoy it.
Yeah, definitely. And this is we hand it over to you now because Belgrade is just one of our new partners, right?
Yes,
and
thank you.
Maybe it's interesting to see what you experienced by doing one-to-one.
This is from our first session that you showed us, but we will show you more pictures.
Can I pose a question?
Sure, yes.
Yes, sure. Okay, so what about singers? Did you have anyone singing?
Absolutely. Yes.
And how was that? Because I think that's slightly different.
Yeah, it is slightly different. I remember we had two amazing singers in Berlin last year, for example. And so, of course, it was not 2 meters apart, but there was 5, 6, for COVID reasons, of course, 6 meters apart, and mind-blowing, of course. I remember one Israeli singer, Hagar Shavit, who's an amazing mezzo-soprano, and just amazing looking into her eyes. And then in a church, for example, listening to Ravel's Kaddish, that's just, you will not leave the space without having tears in your eyes. So that's very, very, very touching, of course. Every single time you will play it for a listener, if you do it according to our format, it will sound different. So I remember one viola player, for example, Franziska, right? And she had only this one and only Bach sonata, only one movement. And I was outside listening, and every single time it was so different. So improvisation does not need, in my opinion, does not need to be completely, how should I say, sort of, you can do that. That's amazing if you're able to do that. But you don't have to. If you look into the listener's eyes carefully, 100% attention, you will always find a very individual way of musical response. So that's very interesting. But we're very free. So every musician will respond differently. And also we like this kind of freedom, which is in the format, that you don't, okay, you have to do this, you have to play by heart. And actually, because a lot of musicians ask us, but that's, yeah, we really like to give this freedom to the musicians who are willing to take part in this adventure.